why did you become drug addict or alcoholic, whatever substances you were using? If you had work ethic and you have those opportunities and you saw how you can improve your life, what led to it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually didn't do my first like real drug until I was like 26 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So because I grew up in such a strong, strict Christian home, like I was afraid to do drugs, right? All my friends in like, college, they were all doing that stuff. And I was like afraid, literally afraid.
What did you try first?
Well, I did smoke a little weed, I think probably during that time. I don't really count that as much because it was just very little. And I don't like smoking because it like makes me cough. But when you say hard work ethic, I used to be told I was lazy back in my early days because my family said, if you don't go get a real job, like, like a steel worker job or like a hospital job, getting like a salary or hourly, like, I always wanted a commission job. Like once I tasted what that feeling was like when you sold something and like, somebody accepted that and you got paid like on what you were worth, not on how many hours you worked. Like that totally changed the way I thought about life. And what happened is because managers at the car dealerships didn't know how to handle me because of my ADHD and because of all the questions, same thing the teachers, my parents couldn't deal with, they would fire me, right? Then I would feel dejected. And then I would go try it again because I was stubborn and I wanted to work and I wanted that commission, right? I wanted that feeling again. Well, what happened was I got a little tipsy at a party one night, and somebody had cocaine, and I ended up trying cocaine. And when I did that, I was like, "Wow, I feel like Superman. I feel like a rock star."
Like, don't give cocaine to someone who is already fireball and with ADHD.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, yeah, and again, because I was drunk, I did it because I would have been too afraid to sober. And I did it. And the next day I told one of my other friends and I said, "Hey," I said, "wow, this was an amazing feeling." He's like, "Yeah, we already know. Like it's about time you joined the crowd." And I'm like, "Well, I didn't know." And next thing you know, they asked me if they could buy some, if I could go get them some. So next thing you know, I started selling like little $50 bags, $100 bags. It got to be profitable so much so that I was like, dude, why am I working at this other job? And at the time I had given up on car sales because I'd been fired like 7 times. I went and had a job at Verizon Wireless, working that corporate job, right? Because, got to get that steady paycheck. And I just basically stopped doing that. And I started selling drugs and eventually...
you start selling drugs.
Yeah. It wasn't even like I loved it. I mean, I did them like when I partied, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I wake up in the morning and like have to do them. It was, I liked the fact that there was acceptance. Like the same thing I get out of like when I sell you a roof or when I give somebody a service, right? And that feeling of like love and gratitude that I got, I felt important, right? And I just kept doing it more and more and more to the point where like I wasn't working a day job and I would only go out to the bars and the clubs in the evenings, right? And it was always in suburban America. It wasn't like nothing dark and gloomy. It was, always that like Miami life, right? Like that stuff that you see like on like the movies, right? And there was challenges with that. I wasn't even that good of a drug dealer, right? I'm like some like, good like suburban kid. Like, I'm not.
You do look like a drug dealer, doesn't he?
Do I? All right, I don't know. Hopefully not. But
I could see that.
Distribution. How about this? Distribution had a problem. You know how we had shingle distribution problems a couple years ago? I couldn't get hooked up, right? And I lost everything, like, because nobody could get anything from me. And then I felt my identity went down the tubes. And so I had to go try. I went downtown. I'll never forget. I went downtown looking for like an opportunity to go buy drugs off somebody I probably should have had no business dealing with. Got caught up with that guy. Next thing you know, I got robbed at gunpoint. Got pistol whipped over the head. They stole my car. 2 months later, I got evicted from my apartment. And I was basically homeless because I was too afraid. I was too proud to tell my mom what was going on. And I didn't want her to know. So
how old were you?
Like 26, 27 years old.
Wow.
And, so that I lived, and I had I lived in my car for like a couple of days and I started sleeping on buddies' couches and it took me like 3 months to make it come up again. And then I got a nice apartment again. And I did that for like 3 years until a guy that I was dealing with got in trouble for a DUI. I found out. And then so he could get out of the DUI, he said, "Oh, hey, I know this guy that you can bust for selling drugs." And I got set up and they charged me with 2 felonies. And I was scared to death, right? Never been in trouble before, never like had anything. Then obviously like I had to tell my mom. My mom was actually at my door. The FBI and the police, they raided my house. They kicked the door in. I was scared to death, right? They had guns drawn on me. I'm like, whoa, I don't have no guns. Like, and I even played poker with one of the cops like one time, and I was like, Terry, like, I don't have guns. Like, put your guns down. I'm not gonna like do anything crazy. But I was scared, man. And I thought that was the end of my life. And I had to go move in with my sister, right? I had no money. They took everything I had, laptops, money, and I didn't even have that much money. I had like $5 or $6 grand. It wasn't like I was like some Pablo Escobar guy. It was like, but to me, that was a lot of money at the time. Had to go move in with my sister, which that was an eye-opening experience. And I love my sister to death. But if you know anything about brothers and sisters, and we're only 11 months apart, like, we love hard, but we fight hard. And she basically made it known that she was taking care of me for the 6 or 9 months that I was living in her house, in her basement. And she made me feel that pain every single day. And while we were going through the court system, I started going back to church, right? I went right back to church, right? I was away from the church. As soon as I moved out when I was 18, I got away from the church, right? I got away from the good people in my life, and my life started to go downhill. And, that's what kind of leads, one bad decision goes to another bad decision to another bad decision. And here I wake up, have to live with my sister, fighting this court case, with, a basic attorney. I didn't have anything, and I have Johnny Cochran money. So I was scared. I thought I was going to jail for like 2 years, they basically said. But started doing community service with my church because I knew that if I could like start living a good life, I think I had a good case with the judge. So I was spared from going to jail. They did give me probation for like 5 years, and I had to pay a bunch of fines. And at that same time, my uncle, who's like, my mom's age, he was roofing in Pittsburgh. So my uncle had been a roofer his whole life. He got out of college and he started roofing as a laborer, $6 an hour. He told me he saw a sign, needed to support his family. He had just started his own commercial roofing company about a year before and needed some help in sales and marketing. And I was working at a call center, like $9 an hour with a bunch of other like people that probably look like they just got out of like committing crimes. You know what I mean? So like, it wasn't like
roofing industry.
Yeah. Well, it was as this call center. I didn't have any hope. I was never going to get a real job ever again. Like I was already just like, wow, I just screwed up my life. I'm done for the rest of my life.
Wow.
My uncle calls me up, says, and that felt good, right? Somebody that wants you, right? And he called me up and said, hey, come help me, do sales and marketing for my roofing company. And I said yes instantly. And you know what my mom said? Don't go. Like, he just started that business. It's not a real job. Like, what if he can't pay you on Friday? And I'm like, Mom, I'm out of here, man. Like, I cannot like just be at a call center for the rest of my life.
That's the roofer's reputation.
Yeah. So, and I didn't know anything about that. All I knew, that was an opportunity.